Off by briefly looking back at last week. How pleased were you despite the result?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Your whole intent is to go there and win the game for a lot of reasons, and we didn't. I thought, regardless of the guy getting sent off, I thought we put ourselves in a position to win the game, which these days is really hard to do. For 13 on 12, especially against one of the better sides in the comp, nearly impossible. So to put ourselves in a position to win was really pleasing. Probably just come up with a couple of fundamental errors at that stage. Fatigue kicked in, and they got away from us in the end. But as pleased as you are with the effort, at the end of the day, you lost the game in front of a big crowd with a lot of expectations. So you got to. That's what you probably sort of think about when you go to bed at night.
Do you feel that it was any indication of progress you perhaps made in the last few weeks, though?
I think it's been a progressive thing, probably from the kick-off. We've had sort of just been really struggling to get continuity with our team, and that's pretty much probably across the comp. I don't sort of follow the other teams too much, but it's a tough game and injuries happen. So I think it says a lot for the type of footy that we're playing, that we can sort of make a lot of changes around. We've been fortunate, in the key areas, but the guys around them, in centres and back rowers and centres and wingers, we can just sort of bring someone in and we can sort of keep the same way we're playing and play at a certain level. So that's always really pleasing to know that whoever, it's that next man up sort of mentality. Just be nice to be able to get a constant sort of 17 and really, really build and go from there. But that's probably wishful thinking in such a brutal game. Obviously,
injuries affecting things, but were you happy with the build-up? As you talked previously about maybe doing things differently in the build-up.
Yeah, I thought up until I was really disappointed with the first try. We had that was 13 on 13, and it was it was a bit like a training sort of try. So I wasn't happy with the first try, but I thought after that moment, whilst we had the 13 on the field, we really competed with them where it mattered, in the middle of the field. I thought when Cade did get sent, we were in an attacking situation and we worked our way up the field, and I thought we were competing way better at that stage than we were when we played them 2 weeks previous. So, that was pleasing. But from that moment, with 12 men, I thought there were periods of the game where we were on top, So to be able to physically compete with KR was something that we set out to do, and I thought at various stages through the game we were able to do that.
So what do you take from last week into this week?
Good question. Just the effort areas, they don't always win you games, but they'll always get you in games. I suppose the polish that you can put on the back of the effort areas decides how you go against the better sides in the comp. We've got probably the best this weekend. We need to keep turning up with those effort areas that keep you in the game. But we've also got to be a lot better at finishing our end of sets.
Have the extra couple of days in between matches helped at all this week? Have they been of any use to you?
Yeah, I think it always helps. Just to freshen your side up. Just those extra couple of days with bumps and bruises can make a world of difference. So I think we've had 9 days. So all the guys that are able to play that played on the weekend, they're going to be that little bit fresher.
And how about those that were out injured? Obviously, extra time to potentially get back on that road to coming back?
Yeah, not a lot. Harvey should be okay. He got through today's training session, but he's just got a feeling he'll probably be the only one.
If he is back, though, obviously that gives you a little bit more to consider, does it, in selection?
It will. He was one of the outstanding sort of wingers in the competition before he had the hamstring problem. So he'll come back into the side. Again, it's just the nature of the game. We just got to get through our session on Saturday, and then we'll finalise our 17.
How's Ed Chamberlain? Will there be any chance of him being available?
There's a slight chance. He hasn't done any contact this week, just a little bit of stuff on pads, and he got through okay. So look, we need him to be. So we're sort of kid gloves at the moment. He's got another 3 days before the game, so fingers crossed that he'll be available.
Jack Ashworth obviously had a great game last week for you. Is there any thoughts in your head, considering the current injury crisis, of maybe giving him a starting shirt?
There's every chance, especially if Ed doesn't play, he'll come into the side. Just a little bit short on middles too, so Jack's he's done a good job for us coming off the bench as a middle as well. So just got to weigh up what's best for the team when we know everyone's available. But it's good to know that he can handle that edge spot.
Would you consider looking at a short-term loan to try and help cover and get you through this patch?
You're always looking. It's just whether there's someone available and there's a club prepared to loan a player out. Like I say, you're always looking and checking, but it's probably got to be the right fit, for it to happen. At the moment, there's not a lot clubs willing to sort of loan players out.
And if you do bring someone in, how does that work for you in terms of, I suppose, giving other players that are already in your squad a chance? Is it that a hard balance to find anyway? Yeah,
I'd really rather find from within, if that's possible. I think they deserve that chance. They've done the whole off season, trying hard in their reserve grade games. So where possible, you always try to look from within. But if that's not possible, the next best thing is to try and find someone to loan.
So on to the game itself, your opposition, Wigan. I'm guessing you know them quite well now after meeting them already twice this season.
Yeah, they to me they're still the most dangerous side in the competition. I think the two or three standouts are the half, the 5'8" and the fullback. They're just really good understanding of each other. They have some nice set plays that are really hard to defend, and those plays only work because of the speed that those players have. You just can't teach speed, and it's really hard to defend. So, we've got to be at our best in all parts of the game, not just defensively, but also giving them the ball where they're least dangerous.
And I'm guessing as well as the speed as an X factor with Wigan as well. That must be tough to defend against as well. Yeah,
that's the key with Wigan. Well, they've just got it all covered. They've got big, strong middles, great centres, and those key areas are just blessed with speed and sort of, a hooker and a halfback who pull the strings and get the side around the field and just pretty much the total package really. And they've hit form the last couple. They've been in form sort of most of the year, but that was a big win for them against KR at KR to come from behind. It was a huge win.
Your side obviously evolving, different faces in since you last played Wigan. Do you feel that they will feel there's something to prove when they come and play you after the Challenge Cup, or does that just give you confidence?
Champion sides have long memories. That's why they're champion sides. So I'm sure that will be spoken about at some point. They're a very proud club, proud players. So that'll be in the back of their mind, I'm sure, to come here and get one back on us on our home ground. But I suppose the beauty of that is that if you know your enemy and you know what they're going to bring, it's up to us to prepare for it.
And finally, at this time of year, you start to see the rumours about players for next season. At what stage does that start to be on your agenda?
You never stop looking either. We've made some signings for next year. It's nice to sort of get them done. That stops all the innuendo and everyone sort of knows where they stand. So we've got a few coming in, but it's not finished. Let's put it that way. There's we've got players off contract here, or doing well and trying to get contracts for the future. And then we've got players coming in that are playing at other clubs. So it's a necessary evil of the game, and it's can't be avoided. To get it done early is good. And players know where they stand, and you can sort of focus on the year at hand.
But I guess that's something else you've got to juggle, is it, keeping the current squad happy and focused while all that external noise might be going on? Yeah,
it's always a tough time. The only thing that you can say about it is that every club goes through it. Whether you won the premiership the year before or you came last the year before, your roster and how you juggle it is just a 24-hour 7 days a week, pre-season, season and post-season. It just never stops.
But no problems in focusing on the task in hand immediately?
No, that's what you have. The successful teams manage well. It's all about on the field for this season. What you do post-season. I always say to players, if they're performing well and they turn up with enthusiasm and they bounce into training, the rest of the things tend to look after themselves. Whether that's here or whether that's at another club, you've got to be playing well to earn a contract, and that's that, as a player, that's got to be your main focus.
Hey John, you mentioned there Harvey's back in contention. Liam Watts, he's still struggling with his calf.
Yeah, I don't think he'll play this week. He's still, he's not quite right.
Is he running on grass yet?
We're still training on the 4G, so yeah, he's just not quite right to pick this week. Yeah.
How was just a wider injury update? How was Jed doing? Obviously, he's a few weeks into it.
Yeah, he's still a fair bit away, mate. Yeah, still got a hamstring problem.
And Jordan Lane, did he have a successful?
Yeah, well, he's got a broken arm, so that'll be, I think they said 6 to 8 weeks. So he's still got a way to go.
Ollie Holmes, last update was running on anti-gravity treadmills. How's he doing?
Yeah, still won't know, mate. It's still in progress. It's just one. We're just we're doing our best. He's doing his best, but just not quite right yet.
And Brad Fasher, his calf.
Yeah, I think they said 4 to 6. So yeah, nothing's changed.
2 injuries that have gone under the radar a little bit. Will Gardner hurt his head while playing for Featherstone. How's he doing?
Yeah, he's back. He'll play this week in the reserve grade.
And Ryan Westerman with his ankle, he's been out for a while now, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, it was about a 10-week recovery, and I think he's at about week 7.
Cheers, John. Cade Cuss, no ban. You must be delighted with that, because obviously it was a tough set of circumstances, but to have him available this week, bodes well for the side.
Yeah, all you can do is look to the future. It's disappointing that he was red carded and there was no suspension, I suppose. But the beauty for us is available this week, so really happy for him, and happy for all of us that he's back in the team.
I'm guessing you and the coaching staff have had a good look at that incident now. And how do you view it now you've had time to dissect it?
Yeah, I think they probably saw it similar to what we did. That it was a challenge for the ball, and there was a collision at the end of it. There was no way in the world he could disappear. He braced for contact. Didn't look good, I admit that, but I suppose you've got to play the game and been in that situation to understand that there was nowhere for him to go. Like I said, the ball was in the air and there was a split second to make a decision and try and make it safe. And I believe he just braced for contact. So, and I'd say the judiciary saw it the same way.
Does it frustrate you that, in terms of the decision at the time, on-field referees are slowing it down, giving sort of a disillusion that Cade had time when clearly that wasn't the case? I mean, it makes every incident like that look much worse than it is.
Yeah, like the slow-mo can make it look worse. There's no doubt about that. Look, it didn't look good, first to admit that, but like I said, I think if anyone that has played the game and has been in that situation would understand that there was nowhere for him to go. There was always going to be a collision because they were both going hard at the ball. I'd like to think you look at intent in those situations when you get the opportunity to either yellow or red card. You're swinging arms and knees and elbows and off the ball, no time for it at all. So collision like that, especially in such a big occasion when it was. Huge crowd, a lot of expectation, great opportunity for the game, and I think I said it after the game. You could just feel the air come out of the stadium when that happened.
How's Cade been this week? And I guess he'll want to respond and hit back at Wigan. Yeah,
look, he was. If he didn't chase that kick, I'm into him about not chasing the kick. So the ball was there. And it was a challenge. The ball bounced up in the air, and there was a challenge for the ball, and he did everything I would expect of him. It was brave from both players. That's what our game is about. It's sometimes the most bravest team wins. So the ball was in the air. Both of them knew what the consequence was going for that ball, and it could have been a head clash where they both suffered. It was just two blokes going hard at the ball. Unfortunate, but I saw that he got cleared. through the protocol, so he obviously came out of it all right as well.
Absolutely. In terms of selection, you've got a welcome conundrum in your outside backs, obviously with a good span to go from as well. Are there the conundrums that you like as a head coach?
Yeah, you'd much rather that more to pick from than not many to pick from. That's certainly, yeah, much more enjoyable, put it that way. The beauty we've got is Zach is doing a good job in the back row, and we're down on back rowers. So we've sort of got, just probably the right numbers, barring any injuries down the track a bit. But yeah, certainly look forward to getting everyone back healthy.
In terms of Harvey, what is he going to bring to the side that you've maybe not had in the previous few weeks? Because like I said earlier, you literally was one of the standout wingers in the competition.
Yeah, we're fortunate that, like Tommy Briscoe's been doing a fantastic job there. Lewis has been doing a great job all year. So we've got good depth in that area. Now, that's what you need right across the board. Look, he's a strong carry out of backfield, defends very well, good under a high ball. He brings everything that you want out of the fellas on the wings.
Liam Knight has been in the news a bit this week. Obviously, shock or I want to keep a good player at the club for next year, but warranted are in for him as well. I mean, does that surprise you at all?
No, there'd be a few clubs chasing him, I'd imagine. Like he's aware of our situation. I believe there's a meeting next week regarding quota players and if there is going to be any sort of change to the rule there. And look, the beauty, or what is nice to hear from Liam is that he's very keen to stay here. So he's going to give us every chance around that ruling on quota players, and for all clubs' benefit, that needs to happen like yesterday. Because there's not many businesses in the world that you can run without knowing what the rules are for your following season. So they need to make a decision on that pretty quick.
Obviously, the logistics of it are important, but as a coach, is that a rule that you welcome for the game in this country? Yeah,
there's a lot of things going on in rugby league right around the world that affects everyone. There's a side that's going to come in over in Perth in 27, I believe. And the pool's drying up. The pool is drying up over there as well. So if I'm having spent some time here now in the Super League, if I'm involved at the new club, I'm looking over here. The Australian clubs are tying up their best players for long term. There's players over here, no doubt, can handle NRL. And if I was the Western Australian team coming in, I'd be sort of looking at the best 4 or 5 players over here to get started.
In terms of Liam Knight, hypothetically, if the quota rule doesn't get passed, will there be any contingency plans, or is it too early to say? Because I appreciate there's still 6 months of the season and a lot can happen, can't it? Yeah,
well, we're hopeful that the early indications were that there'd be a relaxing of the quota players if you'd spent 5 years in the competition here. So until that happens, and I believe there is a meeting next week to discuss that. So fingers crossed something, the clubs get an edict there about what they can and can't do.
Looking ahead to Sunday's game, the third meeting against Wigan already, 12 weeks into the year, which is pretty mad. But can you take anything out of the previous 2 meetings into this one on Sunday?
I'd like it to go like the last game did. To be honest with you, that'd be nice. Like I said earlier, I'm sure they'll be sort of smarting from the game at the cup game that we had against them. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot myself, especially about the quality of their team. They're a class team, and they'll, like I said, they're a proud team, and they'll want revenge, and they'll want to come here and win at our home ground. But look, you just got to know, we've got to be near our best, both with the ball and without the ball, to be a chance of beating them this week. And you go out every week intending to do that. Sometimes circumstance doesn't allow that, but that's our plan. And I still believe that if we can do that, no matter who we have on the field, that we can compete and beat anyone. But that's our challenge, to be near our best, get that big crowd behind us, and look forward to Sunday.
So the club is still without a home win this year, going back to July last year. Does that have a psychological effect on your side? Darryl Powell was asked this question a few weeks ago at Wake. He was sort of in a similar boat, and he was keen not to make it a thing. So is that something you're doing at this club?
No, well, if you dig right into the detail for this year, I think we've had 3 games. We drew against Lee, KR beat us, and we lost to KR in the Good Friday comp game and we lost in the Challenge Cup. I think that's a bit, and Wigan beat us. So when you cut right down, Wigan beat us, KR beat us. So they're going to beat most teams. So it's not something that I've thought about too much. If you can win away, you can win at home. You know, the field's the same size, the goalposts are the same width.
In terms of your spine, what are you hoping to get out of the combinations? You know, Will Price, obviously Kate Custard and Caesar. Because you look at that on paper and you start thinking, well, the more time they get, the better they're going to be together.
Yeah, that's the only thing that will make them better. Just understanding, getting a feel for what each other's doing before they actually do it. You know, I think that's one thing that we can do better than anyone. There's just a real understanding between all their key men, and they basically know what they're going to do before they actually do it. So, and that just comes with time spent. They've been there 4 or 5 years now as a group. Our boys have had 4 games, so whatever we can do week to week, it's just it's just a work on, train hard together, and you know the quality's there. It's just now about spending time together.
Cheers, John.
Can I check whether Sam is ineligible this week?
Yeah, he's not available this week.
Yeah. And Rapana, he picked up a groin problem last week. How's he getting on?
Yeah, it'd be minimum a 2 to 4 week injury. So he tends to heal pretty quickly. So hoping more towards the 2 week side, but it's a groin injury and they're always a bit dangerous.
Okay. Just building on what Dan asked about the quotas, does Liggy Sow's future depend on that as well, on that rule getting altered?
Well, it will, yeah, because if he's a quota, we've got no quota spots. If there's a relaxing of the rule and he's not a quota spot, we'd certainly, he had a great off season with us. Started the season really strongly, and I haven't spoken to Liggy yet about all I've spoken to Liggy about is working really hard on his rehab, get himself right to play again. Then we'll sort of discuss what happens from there.
And just another one, Jack Ashworth, you mentioned him. His contract's coming up. He's obviously playing well. How close are you to getting some sort of clarity on his future or making a decision?
Yeah, week to week thing. We're sort of getting, when you get towards the end of your roster and your numbers in your roster, it's always hard. But Jack, he's doing everything he possibly can to earn another contract. He's been, especially in the last 3 weeks, he's been really good for us. So, if he keeps performing like that, like I said, they tend to look after themselves, those things.
Hi John, I think a lot of people would probably say that Hull have exceeded their expectations so far this season, perhaps largely based on how they performed in previous years, but do you think that you've exceeded your own expectations, or is that what you like something?
No, I certainly don't look at it that way, mainly because we're only 8 games in. There's a hell of a lot of points available to come. If we finish around where we are now, well, no one's going to be happy. So I don't look at it that way. I think we've been consistent at the start. We're still working each other out. We're still sort of finding the type of team that we want to be. But as far as competing and doing the little things well in the game, we're certainly doing that, and that's an area that I think if you do get right, you're going to win more games than you lose. So keep building as a team. Expectations, that's sort of probably for other people to decide whether we have or we haven't. But for me, it's definitely no. I think there's a long way to go, and we'll be judged at the end of the year, sort of not 9 games in.
Are there particular areas that you can judge a team on after the first few weeks of the season that you can be looking at as a coach and say we're on the right path here?
Yeah, it depends. A lot of it depends on who's available in your squad, how your draw's been. The sides we haven't even played yet, and there's going to be sides that we've played twice. When we play Wigan, so it's a really tough one. And the competition's very even. I think there's a couple of standouts there, but the majority of it is pretty even. So all I keep saying to myself is that we'll be judged on where we sit at the end, not where we sit now. Happy where we're at now. I've been real happy with most of the parts of the games that we've played. You never want to lose, but no one's ever going to go through a season undefeated. So you're going to lose along the way, but happy with the progress that we've made.
Do you think in the long run it can be beneficial that you've played Wigan 3 times, Hull twice in the first 10 weeks of the season?
Yes and no. You'd certainly like to get wins up against those sides, whilst the beginning of most competitions are pretty tight. Everyone's pretty healthy normally to start the season, and like everyone's on the same level. You haven't had that. When the weather warms up and sides have spent time together, the footy tends to open up a little bit more, and then when you normally find the better sides are harder to handle. So I think we're going to find that as the season rolls on. But it's the same for us too. I feel there's a lot of improvement left in us.
We've just been speaking to Will. What have your impressions been of him as a young man and as a player in these few weeks you've been working with him? Yeah,
he's a real confident young fellow, and you have to be to play in the position that he plays. It's you have to have a voice. You have to be confident. The opposition see through. When you haven't got someone there who's very professional in what they do, you need that. That gives confidence to everyone. Very skillful. Just looks like a naturally gifted footballer to me. Sees things that others don't see. The only thing I mentioned earlier is getting time together with his teammates. And that's the only way we can fix that is week to week playing.
Everybody wonders what his best position is. Have you had any sort of thoughts yet on whether that be one or the other, or very undecided?
At the moment, it suits us with him at fullback. Like, he's got to be in the side because he's a definite strike weapon, and he's made line breaks out of nothing for us in the short time that he's been here. Backs up really well. So at the moment, I'm really happy with Cade at 6. I think he's been doing a tremendous job for us. Aiden runs the show. So at the moment, I think he's best suited for us at fullback. But that's not to say that if circumstance change or injuries hit, that he couldn't play in the halves. That's the beauty of having someone like him. You can switch and change in key areas. You can bring you got Jordan Rapana or Logan Moy to throw at the back. So that's the beauty of having someone like him.